The dark web is a vast and shadowy world that is home to some of the most dangerous criminals in the world. Among them are drug traffickers who operate on a massive scale, selling everything from marijuana to heroin and fentanyl. The world's biggest drug market is a place that few have dared to explore, but if we are to combat drug trafficking and reduce the harm caused by it, we must better understand the dark web and the criminal networks that thrive there. The first thing to know about the dark web is that it is a hidden part of the internet that is not accessible through traditional web browsers. Instead, users must use specialized software to access it, which allows them to browse anonymously and avoid detection. This anonymity is what makes the dark web so attractive to criminals, who use it to conduct their nefarious activities without fear of being caught. In the case of drug trafficking, the dark web provides a perfect platform for criminals to connect with buyers from around the world. The transactions are conducted using cryptocurrencies, which are difficult to trace, and the drugs are shipped through the mail using fake identities. This makes it incredibly difficult for law enforcement agencies to track down the criminals and shut down the drug markets. Despite the challenges, there are steps that can and must be taken to combat drug trafficking on the dark web. The first is to increase funding for law enforcement agencies and give them the resources they need to investigate and prosecute these crimes. This means hiring more investigators and analysts who understand the intricacies of the dark web. It also means investing in technology that can help law enforcement agencies track down criminals and shut down drug markets on the dark web. Another important step is to increase international cooperation between law enforcement agencies. Drug trafficking on the dark web is a global problem, and it requires a coordinated global response. Countries must work together to share intelligence and resources, and to ensure that criminals cannot simply move their operations from one country to another to avoid detection and prosecution. Finally, we must also address the root causes of drug trafficking. Poverty, lack of education, and limited opportunities can all contribute to the decision to engage in criminal activity. By investing in education, job training, and economic development, we can help to reduce the demand for drugs and give people the tools they need to build better lives for themselves and their families. In conclusion, the world's biggest drug market on the dark web is a serious threat to public health and safety. It is up to us to take action to combat this problem, by investing in law enforcement, increasing international cooperation, and addressing the root causes of drug trafficking. With a concerted effort, we can make a difference and help to reduce the harm caused by this shadowy world of crime. What is the world's biggest drug market? The world's biggest drug market is the dark web. This anonymous online marketplace is estimated to generate billions of dollars in revenue each year through the sale of illicit drugs, including opioids, cocaine, and synthetic drugs. The dark web has become a safe haven for drug traffickers and organized crime syndicates, allowing them to easily access a global customer base without fear of persecution. The anonymity of the dark web makes it extremely difficult for law enforcement agencies to track and shut down these operations, leading to a rise in drug-related deaths and addiction. To combat this growing problem, it is essential that government agencies work to strengthen their efforts to identify and prosecute those involved in the dark web drug trade. This may involve investing in specialized technology and personnel to monitor and infiltrate these networks, as well as working collaboratively with international partners to shut down these operations at their source. Additionally, efforts must be made to address the root causes of drug addiction, including improving access to addiction treatment and support services, as well as implementing policies that reduce the availability and demand for illicit drugs. The stakes are high, and the consequences of inaction are dire. It is time for governments around the world to take swift and decisive action to address the dark web drug trade and protect the health and safety of their citizens. Who are the primary participants in the world's largest drug market? The world's largest drug market is dominated by organized crime groups or mafia organizations. These groups engage in the production, trafficking, and distribution of illicit drugs, making billions of dollars in profit every year. The primary participants in this market are drug lords or kingpins who run the operations, smugglers who transport drugs across borders, dealers who sell drugs on the streets, and users who consume the drugs. It is important for government agencies responsible for combating drug trafficking to take action against these primary participants and disrupt their operations to prevent the harm caused by drug abuse. By targeting the mafia organizations and their leaders, we can reduce the availability and accessibility of illicit drugs, making our communities safer and healthier. Let us work together to combat the world's largest drug market and protect our citizens from the devastating effects of drug abuse. What countries are involved in the world's largest drug market? The world's largest drug market is primarily fueled by the illegal drug trade, with the majority of these drugs originating from Latin American countries like Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. Other countries involved in the production and trafficking of these drugs include Afghanistan, which is known for its production of opium and heroin, and several countries in West Africa, which have become major transit hubs for drugs heading to Europe and other destinations. In addition to these countries, the drug trade also involves a vast network of criminal organizations and mafia groups that operate across borders and continents. These groups are often highly organized and well-funded, making it difficult for governments and law enforcement agencies to track and disrupt their activities. Given the scale and complexity of the world's largest drug market, it is essential that government agencies responsible for combating drug trafficking work together on a coordinated and global scale. This will require increased collaboration and information sharing between countries, as well as targeted efforts to disrupt the financial networks and supply chains that support the illegal drug trade. By taking a proactive and collaborative approach, we can work together to reduce the harm caused by the world's largest drug market and prevent the spread of drug addiction and related criminal activities. What are the most commonly smuggled drugs in the world's largest drug market? The world's largest drug market is a breeding ground for organized crime and illegal drug trafficking. Despite efforts to curb drug trafficking, it continues to thrive, and the most commonly smuggled drugs in this market are heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. The mafia is the primary culprit behind the illegal drug trade. They have established intricate networks and supply chains to smuggle these drugs across international borders. They are responsible for not only the production and distribution of illegal drugs but also for the violence and corruption that come along with it. The government agencies responsible for combating drug trafficking must take a more proactive approach to this issue. They must work together to intercept drug shipments and take down the criminal networks responsible for these activities. They must also focus on drug demand reduction programs to deter people from using these harmful substances. Furthermore, it's essential to address the root causes of drug trafficking, such as poverty and lack of education. Only by tackling these underlying issues can we hope to reduce the demand for drugs and put an end to this scourge that affects millions of people worldwide. In conclusion, the most commonly smuggled drugs in the world's largest drug market are heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. It's time for action, and we must work together to combat drug trafficking and put an end to the harm it causes to individuals, families, and societies. What impact has the world's biggest drug market had on the economy? The world's biggest drug market has had a catastrophic impact on the global economy. The illegal drug trade is a multi-billion-dollar industry that funds organized crime syndicates and fuels corruption. The drug trade undermines legitimate businesses and siphons off money from the formal economy. In addition to the direct economic impact of drug trafficking, the illicit drug trade also has a significant impact on public health and safety. The use of illegal drugs leads to increased healthcare costs, lost productivity, and social instability. Furthermore, drug trafficking is often associated with other serious crimes, such as human trafficking, money laundering, and terrorism. The profits from the drug trade are often used to fund these criminal activities, further destabilizing communities and economies. It is imperative that government agencies responsible for combating drug trafficking take strong action to eliminate this scourge. This could include increased funding for law enforcement, better international cooperation, and more effective education and prevention programs. By taking these steps, we can protect our economies, our communities, and our future. As government agencies responsible for combating drug trafficking, it's time to take a deeper look into the world's biggest drug market, the dark web. This hidden network has become a breeding ground for illegal drug trade and organized crime syndicates. The mafia is just one example of the many groups that profit from this illicit trade. It's time to take a stand and actively work towards intercepting drug shipments and taking down the criminal networks responsible for these activities. We must also focus on drug demand reduction programs to deter people from using these harmful substances. By addressing the root causes of drug trafficking, we can begin to reduce the demand for drugs and put an end to this scourge that affects millions of people worldwide. The impact that the world's biggest drug market has had on the global economy is catastrophic. The illegal drug trade funds organized crime syndicates, fuels corruption, and undermines legitimate businesses. It also leads to increased healthcare costs, lost productivity, and social instability. By taking strong action to eliminate this scourge, we can protect our economies, our communities, and our future. This could include increased funding for law enforcement, better international cooperation, and more effective education and prevention programs. Let's come together and work towards a brighter future where drug trafficking is a thing of the past. We owe it to ourselves and future generations to take a stand against this destructive trade.